business is at as far as what stage of growth can be a bit perplexing. And if you've ever gone online and started comparing yourself to others who are online, that doesn't always give you the best feedback because you don't know what stage they're in. So knowing the 4 different stages is going to help you to be able to allocate your time, your resources, and it's going to show you where you need to be putting your best efforts right now. Because one of the biggest mistakes I see that coaches and consultants make is they're off doing things that their business isn't ready for. I should say their brand isn't ready for. So in this video, not only am I going to give you the 4 stages of growth, but I want to give you the tips so you know where you're at, the most critical steps that you need to move forward so you can get to that next level of success faster and with ease. Hey, I'm Joyce Lehman, and I help coaches, consultants, and course creators leverage their unique message so they can stand out online, sell more services, and make a bigger impact without getting overwhelmed. And how we do this is through my incubator framework. Now, as you know, if you've been on any of my live videos or you've caught any of the replays, I go through things pretty quickly. And I also want to make sure that you have access. So if you want the show notes, then drop the word growth in the comments. And for those of you who DM me, you send me a message because you don't want to show up live, totally understand. Drop me a DM and I promise I will send them to you. All right. So do you currently know what stage of business that you're in? You know, are you brand new or have you been around for a while or you're a little bit more seasoned? Well, the good thing is it doesn't matter the stage that you're at. If you are new, I want to give you clear steps. If you've been around for a bit, then this is going to be a great refresher. So let's just dive in. All right. When it comes to knowing stages, this information is crucial because, as I said, you've only got a limited amount of time. Your resources are limited. If you're very early on, then that means your money's limited too. So getting focused in the right direction is going to help you out. Now, stage number 1, this is startup. It's AKA no clients yet. You've got this great business idea. Maybe you've even been through the transformation yourself. You know you can help people. You see other people doing this online and you're like, why can't I do this for myself? So when you're in stage 1, there is a lot to do. And yes, it can get into overwhelm. You can get into squirrel brain because you're seeing all the things and not sure about you. But if you pick up your phone and you go into any social media platform, you're being targeted with ads galore. So how you get out of being in overwhelm when you're in startup stage is focusing on your main action items. So with that, your first one should be knowing who your ideal client is. If you're marketing to everybody, you are marketing to no one. A hint, typically your ideal client is somebody who looks like you. It may have been, my ideal client is me like 5 years ago because I've already been through the steps and refined all the process. Where I started in 2008 is dramatically different because my focus was more on corporate. It was on sales teams and working with leadership teams, but really tuning into the one-on-one. So I can look at back where I was 5 years ago. It's not to say I didn't write a book before then, didn't do some of the things, but I really started to get that process fine-tuned. So if you haven't already, then write down, it could be you, or maybe you've had a family member, a friend that's gone through something and this has inspired you to start a business, but doing research so you know exactly who your ideal client is, what their biggest pain points are, the transformation you help them achieve. And the biggest thing that you also need to understand is what they think their problem is versus what needs to be solved. You've been through this, and not everybody recognizes if they have a problem. It's called problem aware. So there's unaware, problem aware, solution aware, and you aware. If somebody's in the problem aware stage, they don't always know what's the best fit. And a lot of times what they think this issue is not necessarily the complete transformation, but you're going to overwhelm it in that start. So that's why you want to do your research so you know everything you can about your ideal client or your dream client. And this is where creating an avatar and not just getting into demographics, and that's age and all of that, but it's truly getting into psychographics and knowing where they spend their time, which means that helps you to know what social media platforms you need to be on. This is also where you're going to put in the startup stage your brand foundation. So this is a value statement. So it doesn't matter if somebody finds you on social media or if they find your website or a landing page, then they can see that you are the potential expert to help them solve that problem. So that's why you've got to build a strong brand foundation. This is another mistake. I see folks, they want to market what they do so badly that they're out posting content on social that they haven't backed up to do the research to get their value statement. If you're going to create a logo, of course, you should have a business name or registered business entity. If you want to do it on the cheap, go to Canva. They have some great things. If you want to invest a little bit more with a logo, then there's, 99 designs in some places where you can get logos done and spend a little bit more money. You don't have to spend a fortune to get your business off the ground. As I said, you also want to get your social media presence established. You don't have to spend a ton of money on a professional photographer. I'm telling you, the portrait setting on iPhone works amazingly well. The website is where I see a lot of people get hung up. And I will tell you 100% of my private clients have gone out, created a website. They've spent money with a web developer that didn't understand the messaging process. So everything had to be redone. That's why do your research to start out. As I said, you can create a strong social media presence for free without having to develop the website. I know this because I spent over $13,000 for a website back in 2008, which had to be redone. I didn't have my value statement. Corporate, of course, was my target at the time. As I said, sales teams and leadership teams. It shifted, but that's why the less you spend, but the more targeted you are with your efforts is going to help you when you're in your early stages. And yes, this is where a lot of folks struggle because, as I said, you got to do all the things and you're not quite sure what you need to do first. So clear steps forward. As I said, get your research done, get your social media presence set up. Of course, that is super easy to tweak, but this is where being very disciplined with how you spend your time. Going online and surfing social media, that is not being diligent with your time in the startup stage. Here's also the caveat too, is I have worked with clients and all they want to spend is 10 hours a week tops in their business. They've got a side gig going, which is also important because when you first start up, depending on what your monetary resources are, you may have a second job or you may have a significant other who's helping support you in this process. So you want to get to paying clients as quickly as possible. It just depends, as I said, on your situation, but that's where knowing how to spend your time is so important and what to do first, what to do second, so you can get launched as quickly and easily as possible. This is also, if you want to get there faster, working with a coach that has, been there, done that. They've made the mistakes. In fact, that's why I call it my $23,000 mistake in my second book. But working with somebody who's done that and who is very, very, very focused. And here's another differentiator. I have talked to a couple of people where they spent money with a law of attraction coach. I actually had a client of mine, she is an acupuncturist. She spent money with a coach that helps acupuncturists. And by the end of the year and $12,000 later, she had no website, she had no social media presence, she had nothing. So that's why choosing who you invest with, if you invest early on, is so important because I've spent a lot of money in the wrong places and did not get the result. So your easiest next steps forward, and as I said, if you want the show notes, because I am flying through this quickly, then drop the word show notes and I will make sure and get them to you. All right. Then stage number 2, this is survival mode. Because what happens is you've started getting a couple of clients. They are coming in. I've had clients that have worked with me. It could be a friend or a family member who decided to work with them. That's fantastic. You know why? Because you get to test. Part of this is really starting to create your offers and getting firm on what your offers are. The faster you can get your startup done, in that startup phase done, the better. And that research helps you to create your offer. So when you're in your survival of, you haven't quite gotten a steady stream of paying clients, you're over here, that's when really fine tuning. And you should have a free offer. This is some way that somebody can work with you. And I know a lot of people do strategy calls, or they do accountability calls or clarity calls. If somebody happens to find you on social, then they need to have a way that they can see what your expertise is about. And this is where I highly, highly suggest that you have some sort of lead magnet or freebie that is something else other than a strategy call. Because if somebody is in the problem aware stage, they know they have a problem, but they haven't really recognized that it can be solved by an authority, or especially you. This is where that first step in your offer is having a lead magnet. It also helps to build your list. It gives them a little taste of your authority, which of course you should be doing when you're posting content on social media and addressing that. But the survival stage is where you're really going to hone in on what your offers are. The easiest way to do it, you have a free offer. If you're working with one-on-one clients, you have a paid offer. Do not make the mistake that I did. Also keep in mind, I was in a very different space back between 2008 and right before the pandemic. My focus was companies and teams. I had a framework. I knew what my framework does. I'd written a book on it, and I'd been doing keynotes all over the country. So that became a natural framework that I put together into a paid course. So clients could work with me. They could bring me in for a keynote or a training, and then they could purchase the course after that to take their folks through to hold on to the accountability. The dilemma, and that is a great framework, by the way, in case you need an idea, but the dilemma was I spent all this time creating the content, recording it in a professional studio. The money that went into that, of course, I had to load it into a platform, but the minute I made a tweak, I already had spent all this time and money in these highly produced videos. So when you're creating offers, the fastest and easiest way to do this, especially if you're in either the startups phase or the survival phase, there are so many different tech platforms, and that is my next video that I'm going to do, is tech to really, so you know the things that you need to. But I have been in Thinkific, I've been in Rizzuku, I've been in Kajabi, I'm now in FG Funnels, there's Teachable. There's lots of platforms that you can actually get that, but you can use Loom to record your videos, or you can do a live workshop and take the lives. There are ways that you can do it. So when you're not quite sure the framework, or you're still testing content and tweaking and refining it in the survival stage, there's great ways that you can do it for, you can record it for free, and then you can upload it and then tweak as you're getting feedback. So that survival stage, it's where you pretty much have everything going, but yet now it's that testing and tweaking time. The other thing you're going to be doing is you're really going to start to market what your offers are. This goes back to, if you've done the research, the social platforms your folks are supposed to be spending time on. You've got your email that you're nurturing folks through email. You have a very simple funnel, which can be done manually. It doesn't have to use all the technology things, but that survival stage is where you're really going to be fine tuning all of that to help you out. You also have to be able to track for lead generation. This is where Google Drive, I always say, upload it to the cloud. I had a client, oh my goodness, she kept everything on her desktop, and when her computer crashed, her business crashed. Don't do that. Always make sure it's uploaded so you've got that. Now, when you're tracking things, you're going to know you're posting content, you're responding to people. There's all the things that go into that, but you can start to see what's working, what's not working, what needs to be tweaked. Is there something off with your messaging, or people responding to this simple landing page? That's in that survival mode where you really need to fine tune things along the way. You may be investing in a specific program, or it's a specific course that you need specialized expertise in that area. That's where you want to do that in survival mode. In startup mode, as I said, be careful who you invest with. I cannot believe the people that invest with the law of attraction and they don't even have their foundation set up. So do that. And then, like I said, you're going to tweak, tune, refine in that stage. Your pitfalls, what's going to happen is maybe being unsure specifically how you're going to market your business, like what strategies you need to do. I would rather you be on one platform, be consistent on one platform, and be refining your message and seeing how people are responding versus spreading yourself thin and you're going everywhere. You're wearing yourself completely out and you don't know what's working. Always start with simple. That is the best way to do it. Now, keep in mind when you're in the middle of your survival mode, it can be exhausting, which means you want to make sure that you're planning. You want to make sure that you're very strategic with where you're spending your time. Also, this is where you may have to back up and go, did I get my foundation set up right? Am I truly in a niche? Am I trying to market to everybody versus really fine tuning and getting that message tuned in? Get your smart marketing framework set up. And then, like I said, you're going to have to test. I'm not going to get into A/B split testing. It's too complicated. But this is where you need to test and tweak and see what works and what doesn't. The other thing is analyze. Are people actually, if they go to a landing page or you have a conversation, are they actually booking calls with you and saying, yes, I want to take that next step? Or is it completely crickets? These are all the things that if you're running into this, then you know that you're in survival stage. So once you get through that, you start getting paying clients, you can breathe for a minute, then it's time to step 3, systematize. So at this stage, your business still requires a lot of you in it. Totally understand. It requires you. I will tell you, even on small budgets, you can hire people to help you out. It takes a strategy to know where to find them. By the way, I use Upwork, but I have a very specific process to find freelancers who work for me. Currently, I have a YouTube expert because I'm going live regularly and I need SEO content. I don't want to do all the keyword research. I have somebody who's helping me on Pinterest because Pinterest is a very specific social profile. I have somebody helping me on Instagram and I do all the other social stuff. And then of course I have a VA. I have them 5 to 10 hours a week. But I said, Upwork is an amazing platform to be able to hire folks from all over the world, very specific. So when you're in that, it's time to systematize, and that's where your business is growing. You want to make sure that you're not having to do everything. And that's why I'm really starting to outsource things. But I have to be able to give them direction to tell them what I need them to do. And that's part of that systematizing process. It's having landing pages set up. It's having sales pages set up, which of course you can use your website for this, but there's very specific language that goes on landing and sales pages versus social media content. So when it comes to systematizing, another investment may happen over in startup. You can work with a copy editor just a couple of hours, but especially in survival, it's really fine tuning. When it comes to systematizing, it's knowing, what's the process that somebody finds you on social, they know nothing about you, and yet their interest is piqued. They're willing to take action on that great call to action that you have. So how are you going to bring them in and begin nurturing the relationship so they can see more value added content? As much as I would love to say, just post on one social platform, this is where a combination of, whether it be Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Pinterest, whatever, maybe it's TikTok, but having that email where you can also drive. Is everybody going to go there? Heck no. But this is part of that systematizing and part of those automation processes. I actually did a podcast a couple of weeks ago that gave some tips on how to do that. Because as I said, if you hire people for specific aspects of your business, then you want to be able to give them direction. And if you start paying attention to the steps that you're doing regularly, then that's going to help you systematize and see what your processes are. Now, as I'm talking about hiring somebody, if you just thought, oh my God, I can never do that, I promise you can. If you thought I could never do that because you're a control freak, like I used to be, I promise you, you can, but you have to go back to step one, get the brand foundation. Step two, make sure that everything's starting to jive before you start hiring people to come in and do things, because you want to know that it's working. So it is the best use of your time and money. So yes, you can hire amazing folks on a budget. So when it comes to step three and systematizing your main action items, this is really getting clear on what your offers are and really fine tuning. You may decide that you want to throw in another offer, right? You want to test something out. If you've been doing one-on-one coaching, then maybe you're going to go into group programs, whatever that might be. For me, I'm so excited to say that I just bought simpleroadmapplanner.com today, because I have a new planner that I'm rolling out, and it's going to be a micro offer. And I'm so excited to get it out of my head and off paper and out into the world. So this is where, as I said, but you've got to have the things in place. So you know the funnel, you know the automations, you know what's there. Okay. Yes, it takes work. So this is where I kind of go back and judge and see where you're at. All right. Then stage number 4, this is grow and scale. So this is where things get really interesting. You've hit certain income milestones, whatever those are for you. This is where I never judge somebody. As I said, I've had clients, they went 100% in. They wanted to work 30 to 40 hours a week in their business. They had a significant other who was willing to support them. They were tired of doing what they were doing before, and they went all in. I've had other clients who have a side gig. They don't want to give that up, and they can only invest a couple of hours a week, which is fine. So as I said, in grow and scale, this is up to you. This isn't me telling you you're going to be putting in 40, 50, 60 hours a week. Heck no, I don't even, it's like, I'm not going to put in 50 to 60 hours a week in my business. But growing and scaling means you've gotten to the point where you have consistent clients, you have consistent revenue, and you're really wanting to up that. So as I mentioned before, maybe it's you've been one-on-one clients and you keep getting so many people demanding your time, you can't take anymore. So that scaling process, you turn a one-on-one into a group program. Or maybe it's adding another coaching offer that gives you multiple ways. Like me, I've got, my micro offer that's coming out. I've got a low ticket offer. I've got my group program. And then I only work with a handful of private clients because I know the amount of time that goes into that. So think as you're growing and scaling what your offers are if you want to add something in. Another thing that I did, you could very easily do that, is add a VIP day. A VIP day is something where if somebody doesn't want to do long-term coaching, but yet they know they want to work with somebody and get an end result as quickly as possible, I've invested in VIP days. They are amazing because in that amount of time, I walk away with a solid game plan. I know what I need to do in a specific aspect of my business. So really think through your offers, where you're at. Do you have a free offer, a micro offer? Do you have a private client model that you work with? Is that all that you do? Maybe you can add a VIP day, or maybe you turn it into a group framework. But this is where growing and scaling is going to serve you well. And some folks that I know, I have not quite gotten there yet. I know I need to do it, but you bring on somebody as an accountability coach where you need to scale you because you've got so many clients, you need somebody to serve. Yes, I have community managers, but they're not actually coaching clients. That comes into that grow and scale piece. So depending on where you're at, then you may very well need to do that. So part of your success factors of this stage, learning how to delegate. You got to learn what you're doing, what is income producing activities, and what are things that you can delegate so you can maximize your time. You stay in your zone of genius, working where you're supposed to, but you can delegate the other. The second piece is getting good at hiring. Like I've got a process down on Upwork. I've hired some amazing people that are there. I haven't hired, at the beginning, I had a problem hiring the right people. Now I know exactly how to do it, but I also have processes in place so I can easily delegate. And then As I said, knowing what your model is, knowing what your current coaching or consulting or service model is, and then being able to scale that accordingly. So when you're in the growth and scale stage, I am just like tongue twisters. This is such a great place to be. All right. So to do a recap, stage number 1, this is startup. This is the AKA not bringing in any revenue yet. Yes, it can be overwhelming, but this is where you really want to focus on laying a solid brand foundation, doing your research, getting your messaging right. It's reaching out to people who could be potential clients simply to get feedback, getting, if it's a logo, simple, getting your social media presence. That's the quickest and easiest, least, in fact, there's no expense to setting that up. Simple things like great bios with Linktree in there that can lead them multiple places, but truly understanding where you need to be to get your presence out. Your website, yes, that can be a part of it, but don't do that until you get your messaging right, or you're truly going to be wasting time, and you don't want to be wasting time or resources in this stage. It is so important to get these things set up, or else you're going to have to backtrack. And then, as I said, it's time and money wasted. So make sure that if you're in the startup stage, you get those things done. Then stage number 2, this is the survival stage. You've got an offer, maybe you've got a couple of offers. You're pretty much still doing everything by yourself, social media and all of that. You're starting to make money, but it can still be that feast or famine because it isn't necessarily consistent client time. So this is why be really focused with your time. Start to map out your processes, because that's in the next phase when you really want to systematize. This is where test out, get your marketing strategy. You should know your content pillars. You should have all of that done and really be getting yourself out there and marketing heavily. It's going to depend on where your ideal client is spending the most time, what platforms are best. You should have an email marketing platform set up and ready to go, consistent messages. You know how to nurture leads. You know how to find your ideal leads. You know how to nurture those leads into paying clients and really starting to track to see what's working and what's not. Then step number 3, this is systematizing. Systematize yourself, because you got to do that before you get to grow and scale. This is where, look at the automations, consider what tech platforms, and I keep having people say, help me out on tech platforms. I promise my live video next week is going to be on tech and how to do tech stacks to save yourself time. But when you do that and you really start to look at systematizing, this is what's going to help you maximize your time. The biggest hang up I see in this spot is learning how to delegate and letting go of control. I used to be a huge control freak. You cannot do that if you're going to move on to the next stage. So systematizing is important. And then stage 4 is grow and scale. It's an exciting place to be. It's, that stage where you could be bringing on team members, you could be bringing on somebody to duplicate you, really expanding your offers. You have consistent clients. So now it's a matter of figuring out time and resources, where your zone of genius is, so you can plug into that and spend most of your time there. So how do you know where your business is, whether it is in pure startups phase or it's systematizing? The answer lies in tracking your metrics. You got to go back and say, what am I doing? Have I done all the steps? Am I actually tracking what's working and what's not? If you feel like you're constantly putting fires out and nothing's working, there's a good chance you're in survival stage. So that's why, as I said, go back, make sure you've got your foundation set up, and then you're there. But if you have a plan, you're steadily moving forward, you're seeing clients come on board, then that means that you're starting to get into that systematize and growth stage. No matter what stage, you're in the right place where you need to be right now. Now, as I said at the very beginning, if you want the show notes, then post growth in the comments or send me a DM, which I have people do that, and I'm going to be happy to send them your way. If you have no idea where you're at and you know that you need to do something, then I've got multiple options that I have set up. I've got a clarity request session, which you can do that for free. And it's all about how we get a plan down in about 45 minutes for your business. And of course, even though it's free, I have homework that you have to do in advance before we even jump on a call. And then I've got my VIP, and I even have a let's book an hour and brainstorm. So there's all those different options. So if you know that you want to move forward and you're tired of spinning your wheels, then drop Clarity or send me a DM Clarity, and we can chat about if you want to go, which route you want to go to get started. Because my whole point of doing this is I want you to get your results as fast as you possibly can with ease. So with that, I will